Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Seen Beyond and Through with Monty. Today, February the 6th, I believe, the month of February, Black History Month. So, the people there at Mattel decided to do black people a favor. And in general, they wanted to do black girls a favor by supplying them with their very own Barbie. Now, this Barbie is beautiful. She's dressed in white, kind of a revealing outfit, with a spear. Beautiful, very realistic. But I have some problems with this. And I'm going to lay them out as to why I do. First of all, she's in a very revealing outfit. And if our black girls are not overly sexualized enough. Secondly, she's with a spear. And I do have an issue with that because Africans were defeated because of the spear, because they did not have the proper firearms. Doesn't necessarily make them weak, but they were defeated. I'm going to get into that. See this spear right here? If you're going to do a spear, why not do a traditional African spear? African spears were never this bland or generic. As you can clearly see, African spears were very elaborate. African spears, many times you can use both ends as a weapon. And the detail of these particular spears were very amazing. So if you're going to do it or make it, then do it right. But I want to tell you something else that I brought out with this particular topic. I have mentioned online that why aren't they showing her holding a book? Okay, some people like the idea. Others took issue with it. And I went to a more radical approach and said, but better yet, why don't you have her holding a firearm? A la Cleopatra Jones style. This was an action figure, a movie that was made in the 70s that was very big in the black community. And I'm going to tell you why. And look at this right here. This would have been a great Barbie. But many people did not like this issue because what they have claimed was that it was perhaps too violent. You're putting firearms in the hand of a doll that is going to be sold to children. And we're going to get into that. But moving back to the spear, I had someone who talked about these things. And funny thing, here goes some of the conversations that were sparked up. Is she goes, I'm African and spears had a lot of power and meaning in my culture. I'm sure they can make another of her holding a book. But seeing this really made me proud to be African. Someone goes, hun, I agree with you. Okay, I'm not an African, but we should all be happy that Barbie made a black doll finally. It doesn't matter what type of culture it is. Just know that it is black. And we should be happy. That doll factory is making more black dolls. So some people are of the mindset that regardless of what the black doll is holding, just the fact that Mattel chose a Barbie that is black, we should just shut up and just be happy. Now here goes the different forms of African spears. And you can clearly see different types, different designs, very elaborate. If you were to go down the shaft, you can clearly see that it didn't just stop with the spear or with the weapon part. They actually had intricate details that were going down. And look at the shape of them. And as you go down again, you can clearly see intricate details as you go way farther down. So it wasn't just a bland spear like that particular Barbie had. And look at the hand carving rather on this spear right here. Amazing. Here goes some more. Nothing bland like what that Barbie's holding. These here again. Okay. Going back now. See this bland spear right there? They had to give Barbie the most blandest spear that you can think of. And look at this right there. Tell me if this does not look like an iron turned upside down. Let me just show you. I had to make it darker so you can get what I'm talking about. See the iron right there? Isn't that what that looked like? Wow, so let's move on. I wonder what the motivation for that was. In an age where black women are being beaten by their boyfriends, nearly killed, where they're being beaten by racist Trump supporters on the street, they're being held while they're being punched, wigs are being snatched off, a woman beaten in Harlem, robbed by 3 men, almost had her eye gouged out by being bitten. So this is the reason why I had mentioned that it would be great to show a Barbie with a firearm. Now, this firearm is not for inciting violence, to create a crime, to do a robbery, or anything like that. It is a reminder that women need protection because of things like this. And women should not rely on anyone to protect them. If it happens, great. But oftentimes, rely on yourself. So this Barbie right here, if they made one with a firearm, would inspire. It's all about protecting. Here she is right here, Cleopatra Jones. This was, as I stated, a movie that was made in 1973 starring Tamara Dobson. And that coat was very popular. It inspired a lot of, I remember, young black high school girls to get that coat or that jacket there. Now, I'm going to talk about something because what was brought to my attention was that, well, you're giving a gun to a child because the Barbie dolls are sold to children. Lo and behold, when I was 5 years old, I had one of these, and this is a G.I. Joe doll. If you can see in his hand, that's a firearm because G.I. Joe is military. These were sold to children. I was 5 when I had one. Here's the current day G.I. Joe. I'm not a big fan of it because it looks kind of alienish to me. But as you can clearly see, he has a firearm. And these are sold to children. Here's another version of a G.I. Joe. They made him more robotic. But, I'm thinking if I prefer this particular model better. Being a child, this would have scared me, to be honest with you. This is just more relatable to me. And this is the one that I had. So I'm just showing you that these are sold to children. And they have firearms. Here they go again. The latest version of the G.I. Joe dolls by Mattel. The same one that makes Barbie with firearms. Now I want to show you something at shooting ranges. Because people will claim that children are too young. But as you can clearly see right here, Let's just go the second one. Safe shooting range for kids. The kids experience 55, I guess $55 an hour. Welcome to the kid-friendly side of Vegas gun ranges. So apparently they allow children on there. Children, the third one down. Children must be at least 10 years of age to be allowed on the range. Children under the age of 18. What is that? 16 is at 18. If shooting long gun or under 21 shooting a handgun. So certain ages that they're allowing children. One says right here, children under 8 years of age are not permitted in the range, but can watch from, I guess, outside or directly supervised in the shooting booth by a parent or legal guardian. So apparently they have their age restriction, but you don't have to be an adult. I want to show you something. Letting kids shoot guns is good for them. Of course it is. Of course it is. Learning to use a firearm is very good for children. Learning to kill is not. Learning to commit violence is not. Remember, it's not the gun that harms. It is the people behind it and their intent and motive. So he's teaching his daughter how to use a firearm, which is very good, which was my point as to why it would be beneficial to have a dowel instead of a spear. Have a firearm. Because we're dealing with today's age. We're not dealing with something that was centuries ago where spears were used to defend, to fight, to hunt. We're talking about today's age. Here goes children with firearms. The boy at the top. Second boy is probably a teen. Here goes children again. Funny how a lot of Caucasian children get indoctrinated into firearms very early. A lot of it has to do with hunting too, I believe. But here goes children right here again, handling firearms. Once again, children with firearms. I see nothing wrong with that. I see everything wrong with a weak Barbie, though, with a spear. That's it. Here goes children again with firearms. Nothing wrong with this here. They're being taught very early, at an early age, how to use the firearms. And notice how you see a lot of girls. I say bravo to that, to be honest with you. So, in case you want to say that, well, Barbie is not sold to girls, I say BS. Here's a G.I. Joe Barbie. It was a limited edition, but look what's in her hand. She has a firearm. So they have a white Barbie with a firearm, but the black Barbie with a spear. And if I'm correct, wasn't the early Charlie's Angels dolls, when it first came out, did they have a gun in their hand? Does anyone remember that? I'm not sure, but I thought I vaguely remember them having a gun in their hand. But anyway, here's proof right here. This Barbie is marketed to children. She has a firearm. Let's move on. Here goes Barbie with, I believe, a G.I. Joe. He has a firearm, and they're shown as a pair. Once again, these are marketed to children. So no, it's not that they can't market a Barbie or a Ken doll to children with a firearm. Here's a Barbie and Ken doll right here. Army style, right? I want to show you something on Barbie's across her shoulder down to her hip. Isn't that a gun holster there? This is military. So they can market them to children. But look at what they have right here for a black Barbie for Black History Month. She's holding a spear. A very cheap one at that. Very sexualized outfit. I don't just buy the premise that because she's black or we should just accept anything. I think we need to be very careful with that mentality. This would have been a great Barbie right here. Cleopatra Jones style. But they chose to go with that. This is more symbolic, more powerful, can inspire you. in the right direction. I do not know what direction this can inspire a young girl in. I mean, I can picture people, to be honest with you, using this as a Halloween costume. That's about it. But look at this, would have been a great Barbie too. Here's Cleopatra Jones again in a different pose. So they make white Barbie dolls. They can have firearms in their hand, but they give the black Barbie doll a spear. Go figure. So for Black History Month, they chose to give us this here. And I guess we should be satisfied because she's black. And it's Black History Month. We should just take it, even though to me it's just very primitive, to be honest with you. The argument that spears have spiritual meaning in Africa, I do not believe it's those types of spears right there. I believe it was the more traditional ones. I don't know how traditional this spear is. But this is not something that I would buy a daughter if I had one. I just wouldn't waste my time on something like this. I would choose to be more inspired, impressed, and want to spend money on something like this. To me, this speaks volumes. It's more empowering. This is very empowering to young black girls. It'll make them curious about firearms, which if other cultures can do it, they are doing it. Why not black culture? Why not black girls? So I just hope that people will not just settle for things because it happens to be black and think that this is the best that they can do right now. Because I'm sure that Mattel must have psychologists or psychiatrists there. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, have been around for how many? Over 70 years. They must know the demographics of who they are selling to. They must know what people want and what inspires people and what's beneficial to people. Also, too, the flip side of that, maybe they know what's detrimental to people and what will not inspire them. And maybe are some areas that they do not want to inspire people. So was this an accident? No, it wasn't an accident. I would say they knew exactly what they're doing. Social engineering, pretty much. Get to the minds while they're young. Impressionable. It's a form of like grooming. But they want to make sure that you're groomed in a very weak way, not in a very empowering way that can be beneficial to you and your community. So with that, on this Black History Month, that was another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you beyond and through.